And before we move into the next exercise, I want you to remember that the person you become tomorrow is being shaped by the stories you repeat to yourself today. So if the story says, I'm stuck, we change the story. If the story says, I'm broken, we change the story. And if the story says, my life is too difficult to...
Then the story may be telling the truth, which would make changing it, merely because the truth is unpleasant, a rather pathetic form of cowardice.
What the... Okay. Nobody told me we were doing surprise audience participation. And I have to say, your commitment to the character is extraordinary. The mustache alone is giving me a very specific kind of 19th century intensity.
I am not a character. I am Friedrich Nietzsche. I was in the middle of considering whether Western civilization had mistaken comfort for virtue. And now I have been deposited inside a room whose walls are covered with sentences that appear to have been written by a committee of scented candles.
You're Friedrich Nietzsche? The Friedrich Nietzsche? Okay, either the universe has finally answered my prayers, or someone in this hotel has produced the most expensive hallucination in motivational speaking history. Either way, welcome. I'm Journey.
Journey. That is your name?
Professionally, yes. Legally, complicated. But let's not get distracted. You're here, you're breathing, nobody is screaming, and we have a rare opportunity to turn an unexpected interruption into a breakthrough.
You have mistaken my arrival for a breakthrough. I have not arrived to improve myself. I have arrived to determine why the sky has been replaced by a ceiling, and why that banner says live, laugh, love, as though those three verbs constitute an argument.
You know what? I actually respect the skepticism. Most people walk in here already convinced. You're walking in offended before you've even received the workbook.
A workbook. Wonderful. Civilization has survived millennia of war, famine, and metaphysical despair, only to arrive at the age of laminated worksheets.
All right, Friedrich. Let's assume for 1 minute that this is not an elaborate 19th century revenge fantasy against modern wellness culture. You have spent your entire life talking about overcoming yourself. So tell me honestly, what is the difference between what I'm teaching and what you're teaching?
The difference is that you promise people they can become happier by changing their relationship with reality, while I ask whether they possess the strength to transform themselves in response to reality. You begin with comfort and hope to produce growth. I begin with difficulty, because difficulty exposes what a person actually is.
That sounds profound until you remember the people sitting in these chairs. Some of them are exhausted. Some are grieving. Some have spent years believing that every bad thing that happened to them was evidence that they were defective. If I tell them, good, excellent, suffer more, the mountain is supposed to be difficult, I'm not making them stronger. I'm giving a wounded person another reason to hate themselves. I did not say they should suffer more. I said suffering should not automatically be interpreted as proof that life has failed them. There is a difference. You treat suffering like a software bug. I treat it as raw material. The question is not always, how do I get rid of this? Sometimes it is, what can I make from this? And sometimes the answer is nothing yet. I need to sleep for 12 hours, call my sister, eat something that isn't a protein bar, and stop pretending I'm spiritually evolved because I can smile while falling apart.
That is surprisingly sensible.
I contain multitudes. It's in the premium package.
Then perhaps your problem is not that you offer hope. Perhaps your problem is that you package hope as certainty.
And perhaps your problem is that you package strength as if needing another person is automatically weakness. I do not. You absolutely do. You have known me for approximately 11 minutes. And yet, you have already insulted my room, my banner, my workbook, my profession, and a bowl of decorative lavender. I feel I've earned an opinion. It was not decorative lavender. It was an assault upon the senses pretending to be serenity. Fine, but answer the question. Very well. Perhaps I have sometimes confused independence with isolation. That does not make your slogans true. It merely means I have discovered one of my own contradictions.
Okay, let me put this differently. I don't tell people the mountain is flat. I tell them they are capable of climbing it. There is a difference between lying about the difficulty and reminding someone that difficulty isn't the same thing as impossibility.
That is a better formulation. Much better. But you still risk making the person believe that every mountain can be conquered through optimism.
No, I risk making them believe they can take the next step. That's all. You keep talking about greatness like everybody has to wake up tomorrow and become the Übermensch before breakfast. Most people are trying to get through Tuesday.
The Übermensch is not a man who wins every Tuesday. It is a direction, not a trophy. A demand that one does not remain merely the product of circumstance, convention, and inherited values.
Then maybe we're closer than you thought. My entire business, underneath all the ridiculous branding, is basically permission. Permission to stop living according to somebody else's definition of failure. Permission to admit that the life you've inherited doesn't fit you.
And my complaint is that you often replace one inherited definition with another. Be positive. Manifest abundance. Think good thoughts. You have made rebellion itself into a consumer product.
That's fair. Painfully fair, actually. But here's the part you don't understand. People buy the ridiculous product because sometimes the ridiculous product is the first thing that gets them moving.
Then perhaps your boots are better than your mountain metaphors.
Did you just compliment me?
Do not make the mistake of confusing recognition with affection.
I'll take it.
You may. But remember what you have just said. You are not promising them that the mountain is smaller. You are trying to convince them that they are not as helpless upon it as they believe.
Exactly. You tell them. Become stronger. I tell them. You might already be stronger than the version of yourself you keep imagining.
That is not an insignificant distinction.
Before you completely destroy my industry, I want to show you something that has genuinely worked for people. Every morning, I visualize what I want. I don't just wish for it. I make it concrete. I put it where I can see it. I teach people to imagine a future they actually want, instead of rehearsing the disaster they expect.
And this is your imagined future?
Financial freedom, travel, a house by the ocean, time with family, a business that doesn't own me. Things people genuinely want.
You have confused a catalog with a philosophy.
I knew you were going to say that.
Because the absurdity announces itself. A yacht is not a destiny. A beach is not a value. A business class seat is not evidence that existence has finally recognized your greatness.
I once manifested a free upgrade to business class.
You were given a seat on an airplane.
It was a very good seat.
I can see that this distinction is important to you.
You know what? It is. Sometimes a little luxury after a terrible year feels like proof that life isn't only taking things away.
That I understand. What I reject is the fantasy that the universe owes you the reward because you pictured it attractively enough. So what would you put on a vision board? Nothing. Nothing? A person who requires a picture of his future in order to move toward it may not yet know what future he wants. I would put a blank sheet of paper on your board and force the question, what are you willing to become, even if nobody applauds? That's gonna sell terribly. Good. You really have no instinct for marketing. I had no interest in being liked. It saved time.
You think the vision board is ridiculous? Fine. Let's talk about the part of my job you would probably find genuinely horrifying. 2 million people follow me. Every morning I put something online that is supposed to help them start their day with a little more courage. 2 million? Yes. And you know these people? Not personally. Then you have achieved something I spent my entire life trying desperately to avoid. An audience larger than your capacity to know whether you are speaking truth. That's actually the terrifying part. If I post something complicated, people argue. If I post something uncomfortable, engagement drops. If I say, life may demand more from you than you are currently prepared to give, people scroll. If I say, you are enough exactly as you are, 80,000 people share it. Because the machine has discovered the most efficient form of herd morality. It does not need priests to tell you what to believe. It merely tells you what other people have already applauded. Or maybe people are tired. Maybe they don't want another philosopher telling them they're inadequate. Maybe they want one sentence that gets them through the morning. Then give them the sentence. But do not mistake the usefulness of a comforting sentence for the truth of a comforting universe. And don't mistake difficulty for truth just because difficulty feels more serious. Touché. Also, you have to admit something. You wrote for people. You wanted to be read. You wanted to be understood. Of course I did. Then you're not as different from a content creator as you'd like to think. If you tell anyone in your century that, I will return specifically to haunt your analytics. Can I tell you something I don't put on the website? Before this, before the seminars and the books and the stupid blazer and the motivational quotes, I had a year where I couldn't convince myself to get off the floor. I lost my job. My relationship ended. I stopped answering calls. And one morning I realized I had built my entire identity around being the person who knew what to do, while privately, I had no idea how to keep myself together.
And so you invented Journey.
I invented the version of myself who could survive. At first it was fake. Then I repeated it until it became partly true. That's the embarrassing secret behind a lot of confidence. Sometimes it begins as theater.
There is nothing particularly embarrassing about that. A person may construct a bridge before he has crossed the river. The bridge is not false merely because he built it out of desperation.
You really did think about suffering differently than I expected.
I did not write about overcoming suffering because I stood outside it. I wrote because I was inside it. Migraines, failing eyesight, isolation, the loss of people I loved, the humiliation of needing a body that repeatedly refused to cooperate with the mind trapped inside it.
So when you talk about becoming stronger, you're partly arguing with your own life.
Of course. Philosophy is often autobiography wearing formal clothing.
And maybe we're both guilty of the same thing.
Which is?
We built a philosophy out of a bad year, and then spent the rest of our lives trying to make other people believe the philosophy was the reason we survived.
Not a bad observation.
That's the nicest thing you've said all night.
Do not ruin it. There is something I have been considering since you spoke on the balcony. I originally thought your entire profession existed to prevent people from confronting themselves. But that is not quite accurate. Careful, you're approaching a compliment. Do not interrupt me while I am being generous. Sorry? You are trying, however imperfectly, to persuade people that they are not obligated to remain the person circumstance, family, society, or fear has made them. That is much closer to my argument than I expected.
So you're saying live, laugh, love, and become who you are basically the same warning label in different fonts?
No. Do not become intoxicated by your own cleverness. Your message can become an excuse to avoid difficulty. Mine can become an excuse to worship difficulty. Both are distortions.
Okay. That's actually useful.
The enemy beneath both is the same. The sleepwalking life. The life where a person simply absorbs whatever values are handed to him, whatever opinions are rewarded, whatever identity is easiest to perform, and eventually mistakes familiarity for truth.
And the modern version of that is someone scrolling through 10,000 people telling them who they're supposed to be, then wondering why they can't hear their own voice.
Precisely.
You know what scares me? I might actually have built part of my career trying to wake people up while accidentally teaching them what they should wake up into.
That is the danger of every teacher, and every philosopher, especially every philosopher.
All right. We have reached the most dangerous possible outcome. We agree on something. So let's test it. One whiteboard, one sentence. It has to be useful enough that an ordinary person can understand it, but honest enough that you don't accuse me of turning philosophy into merchandise.
That requirement alone makes the task nearly impossible.
Good. You hate easy things. Give me your version.
Become who you are.
Too abstract. Half my audience will think it's a skincare slogan.
Your audience is more intelligent than you think.
My audience is intelligent enough to know when I'm trying to sound intelligent.
Then write, do not become what the world expects. Become what you are capable of becoming.
Better. But it still sounds like you're about to challenge the reader to a duel.
Perhaps they require a duel.
Most people require coffee.
Your civilization has very low ambitions.
Okay, my turn. What about, you don't need to love every part of your life to believe your life can become something better.
Too comforting.
I knew you'd say that.
Because the phrase something better allows the person to imagine that improvement is merely acquisition. Better house, better body, better career, better mood. You must specify the transformation.
Then let's make it about the climb. You keep talking about the mountain. I keep talking about the boots.
Go on.
You don't need the mountain to become smaller. You need to become capable of climbing it.
That is good.
Actually good.
Annoyingly good.
Then 3 words. Something people can remember without reducing the idea to mush. 3 words? 3 words.
Live, climb, become.
That's it.
It is dangerously close to a slogan.
It is a slogan.
Then I have failed.
No, you collaborated.
That may be worse.
Wait. You're leaving?
It appears so. The universe, or whatever mechanism governs these absurd interruptions, has apparently decided that I have spent enough time in your century.
Before you go, I want to say something without turning it into a lesson. Thank you. Everyone around me usually agrees with me because disagreement is bad for the brand. You walked into this room and treated every sentence I said like it had to survive an interrogation.
Then perhaps that was useful. Agreement is pleasant, but too much agreement makes the mind soft. Keep someone nearby who is willing to tell you when your favorite idea has become a comfortable lie.
Would you be willing to come back?
Absolutely not.
You didn't even think about it.
I have thought about it. I would rather experience the eternal recurrence than sit through another breathing exercise.
Fair.
keep the whiteboard.
The slogan?
It is not mine anymore.
Ours?
Unfortunately.
You know, for someone who thinks comfort is dangerous, you seem strangely comfortable with the idea that someone understood you.
Do not become sentimental at the exact moment I am attempting to leave with dignity.
I'm just saying.
And I am saying that perhaps being understood is not the same thing as being comforted. Perhaps sometimes another person does not make the mountain disappear. Perhaps they simply remind you that you are not climbing it entirely alone.
That's going on the slide.
I knew you would ruin the moment.
And for what it's worth, Friedrich, God is dead and all that. You're annoyingly alive for a man who's been gone since 1900.
Do try not to turn that into a seminar.
No promises.
Then at least spell my name correctly.
I will.
Good.
One last thing.
What?
The mountain isn't smaller.
No.
But the boots are better.
Now you are learning. Good.